Takes a couple seconds to. It's recording, Maureen.
Okay. Welcome everyone to this virtual community meeting to discuss NPA 2021-0025.01. My name is Maureen Meredith. I work for the City of Austin Planning Department, and I'm the Plan Amendment Case Manager. If you haven't done so already, please put your name in the chat box. If you open the chat box and type in your name and organization, if you're associated with one, I'll use this as a sign-in sheet. Please mute your microphone if you're joining by phone, and please turn off your video if you're participating online to save bandwidth. This meeting is being recorded and will be publicly posted to the publicinput.com/neighborhood plan amendment cases website. If you do not want your image viewed publicly, please turn off your camera. As you know, this property is in the Oak Hill Combined Neighborhood Planning Area, the West Oak Hill sub-area. Mark Walters is the meeting facilitator tonight. As I mentioned, I am the Plan Amendment Case Manager. Nancy Estrada is the Zoning Case Manager, but she will not be participating in the meeting tonight. And this is our contact information. Tonight's agenda, I'll go over basic case information, guidelines for group discussion, how to participate in the process, why is there a plan amendment application, what is a future land use map, also called a FLUM. I'll do a brief presentation, then Jewel, the applicant's agent, will do a presentation, then we will open the floor to the questions and answers. So the property addresses are 8328 and a half and 8352 West US Highway 290 and 8112 Scenic Brook Drive. It's 35.57 acres. The plan amendment case number is 2021-0025.01. The project name is 290 West and Scenic Brook. The request is to change the future land use map from neighborhood mixed use and single family to mixed use land use. The associated zoning case number is C14-2022-0160. The proposed zoning change is to change the zoning on the property from LRMUNP and LRNP, LONP, and SF1NP to LOMUNP, LRMUNP, and MF5NP. The owner of the property is Schmidt Investments, and Robert Schmidt is the president. The agent is Richard T. Suttle Jr. from Armbrust and Brown, but Jules Kane will be the agent presentation tonight. Guidelines for group discussion. Please feel free to type your questions into the chat at any time during the meeting. Please postpone general comments during the Q&A session. After staff and applicant presentations, if you would like to speak, please raise your hand by clicking on the hand symbol on the menu bar. Telephone participants will be able to speak during the Q&A session of the meeting. We will call out the last 4 digits of your phone number. Attendees will be muted upon arrival and through the staff and applicant presentations. Then staff will open the floor to answer questions in the chat or by attendees raising their hands to speak. Similar questions may be grouped and answered together. If you're having connection issues, please turn off your video until called upon to speak. And we ask that you be respectful to each other during this meeting discussion. How to participate in this process. As I mentioned, this meeting will be posted to the will be posted to the publicinput.com/neighborhood plan amendment cases link. And you can email or call me or Nancy with any questions or comments that you have. If you provide written comments, they will be added to the staff case reports. You will get a notice in the mail of the date and time of the Planning Commission and City Council hearings if you live within 500 feet of the property. It will have instructions on how to participate in the public hearings. You can participate virtually and in person. So why is there a plan amendment application? Neighborhood plans are adopted by City Council as amendments to the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan. And the city charter requires zoning changes to be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Most neighborhood plan amendments are amendments to a plan's future land use map. And most neighborhood plan amendment applications have an associated zoning application. Excuse me. This map shows the areas of the city that have city council approved neighborhood plans, and those are shown in blue. These planning areas have a plan document that has the vision and goals of the planning area, and also a future land use map. The future land use map has colors that represent broad land uses. For example, single family is shown in yellow. And on this property, there is neighborhood mixed use, and that is shown as brown with white dots. It has single family, and that is shown in yellow. And the proposed land use is mixed use, and that is shown in brown. Here's an aerial photo of the property boundary of the plan amendment case. A Google map that shows some of the surrounding uses of the property.
Should be cups. Is it ours or Tessa's?
Here is the future land use map with a aerial photo with the future land use map. You see the yellow is single family, and the neighborhood mixed use is the area, and the brown with the white dots. Here is a zoning map that shows the current zoning is single family 1 NP, LONP is limited office, the LRMUNP is neighborhood commercial mixed use neighborhood plan, and the LRNP is neighborhood commercial neighborhood plan. So the Imagine Austin Comprehensive Plan has a growth concept map, and these colors represent regional centers, town centers, neighborhood centers, and then activity corridors. So this property is located to the west of the Oak Hill Center, which is a redevelopment in sensitive environmental areas center on the growth concept map. This map shows public transportation in the area. And so ends my presentation. I will stop sharing my screen. And then Jules can share hers.
All right, let me pull it up. Is that visible for everyone? That Mark, does that come across clear? Or should I do presentation mode in PowerPoint?
Presentation mode and see what happens.
Okay,
Yeah,
how's that?
that's
that better?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Maureen, for going over the details. I do want to add another application that's currently in review. So just to talk about everything that we have in review of the city holistically for this property to allow for what we're proposing as, or what Greystar is proposing as a mixed residential project. We have to do a zoning application, which is that first case number, the C14 case number, the neighborhood plan amendment, which Maureen did a great job of going over. And then we're also doing a restrictive covenant amendment on a portion of the property. This is the site. It's a little over 35 acres, currently undeveloped. This is the current zoning that, again, I'm trying not to be too repetitive, but Maureen did a great job going over the single family, the neighborhood commercial, and the limited office commercial zoning that currently exists. So right now the property could be developed up here on the frontage. We could do some residential where it's zoned LRMU. Can you see my cursor when I move it, by the way?
Yes, I
Okay,
can.
good. Oh, good. So on the portion of the property that's currently zoned LRMUMP, we could do residential or commercial, but the rest of the property, as you can see, is just got SF1, and then it's got the commercial here where you could have medical office, convenience store, service station, some of those types of commercial uses here. But we're proposing to rezone a majority of this site to allow for the mixed residential project. And I'll get into the detail on that in just a minute on some other slides. But this slide does a good job of just showing where the restrictive covenant amendment applies to. And this is, if anybody's familiar, there's some old Oak Hill area restrictive covenants from the 80s that secured some entitlements on property. And for this one specifically, it allows for 65% impervious cover when the rest of the property is only allowed up to 25% impervious cover. So a majority of the development will be subject to current impervious cover standards at the 25%. But we're asking for the city to keep the 65% on this portion, which is just a little over 8 acres, and then subjecting the project to current water quality SOS standards and some dark sky requirements and some additional tree mitigation that goes above what current code requires. This is the site shifted, so hopefully you're following it. The zoning can get complicated. What we're requesting, since we don't need to rezone the entire property, we're only asking to rezone a little over 19 acres, and that's the area in green. So the area, let's see, it's right here, that's currently zoned SF1 and LONP. If you follow this green line here, we're asking for those two zoning designations to be rezoned to LOMUNP. So still somewhat consistent with what exists over here, but adding the MU, which will allow for the residential component. And then here where it's zoned LRNP, and then these two slivers of the adjacent tracks, we're asking for this area to be rezoned to MF5. So at the corner of Scenic Brook and 290 is where the apartment portion of the mixed residential project is proposed, which is why we're asking for MF5 NP on about 6.8 acres of the site at the corner. And this is again just a snapshot of the future land use map and the neighborhood plan amendment that we're doing, going from single family neighborhood mixed use to allow for the mixed residential project. And then some of the restrictions we've added based on conversations we've had with the Thunderbird Neighborhood Association and staff. I'm going to go through some of the restrictions we are adding to the project, either via some sort of restrictive covenant or the restrictive covenant amendment that we're working on with staff. So we're agreeing to an open space buffer of about 150 feet from the north and west perimeter of the property. Maybe I'll bounce back so you guys, well, actually the next slide will do a good job. I'll just go ahead and go there. So this is the just a very conceptual layout, but you can see this 150-foot buffer we're talking about here on the north and west portion of the property of open space. We're also limiting height. I'm going to go back to that slide. So in the blue, we're limiting height to no higher than 2 stories. The green area, no higher than 3 stories. And then the red, no higher than 4 stories. The access being proposed onto Scenic Brook will be for emergency access only. And as I briefly mentioned, we're agreeing to dark sky conditions, tree mitigation at 110% for removal of any trees that require mitigation, and doing the water quality and detention pond, having it set back 25 feet from the property, because it's the north property line, but depending on where they end up putting it, there is a setback to keep it away from the adjacent residents. I also just want to mention the number of units being proposed. It's about 146 of single family and townhomes, and then 208 multifamily units. There was, I recently learned today, there might even be a potential for putting about a 2,000 square foot coffee shop somewhere on the site open to the public as well. This is all subject to approval and going through the site plan process, which we are going through, in addition to the zoning, RCA, and neighborhood plan amendment. So I think that covers it at a high level, and happy to answer any questions. Should I leave my screen up in case we need to reference exhibits for questions, or would you prefer I close it?
That might be
I
good
would
to
leave
have
them
it
up.
on the ready in case
Yeah,
questions
I would
do
just
come
leave it
up.
up. Yeah,
I'll leave it up. Okay.
Okay. Well, for the presentations were going on, one of the folks here, Cynthia W, asked if you could describe the proposed land use and zoning change, since some of the stakeholders don't know what all the alphabet soup means and don't have a full understanding of the difference between current land use and future land use. I think you guys covered that, but Cynthia, did they cover that to your satisfaction? Do you have any outstanding questions?
No, only if stakeholders do.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that your concern was addressed. So folks, here's your opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and their team who are here. So raise your hand, and if you don't have any questions, won't wait. Yes, it's Annabelle LaBarbera.
Yeah, yes. Hi, good afternoon, Annabella Barbera. I have one quick question. I'm the neighbor on 8007 Scenic Brook Drive. I'm on the other side of the road of your site. So my question is, what is the height of these townhouses along Scenic Brook? I see there's 2 stories, but the total height in feet.
Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about these, if you can see my cursor.
Yes.
That would be in the 2-story zone, and also the project will be subject to compatibility standards too. So I believe this conceptual is taking that into account, but if it hasn't, it will have to during site plan review. So the height is definitely limited as you get closest to single family properties across from Scenic Brook.
Say, Jules,
So,
could you
so is
describe
there a
what
particular like
compatibility,
yeah.
what compatibility is for folks who might not know?
Oh yeah, good point, Mark. Compatibility is in current city code, and it requires projects to be set back a certain distance from single family zoned properties or is used. So whether it's zoned or used as single family residence, you have to set back a certain distance. I believe within the first 25 feet, you can't have really any development. And then as you step back so I think it's like 50 feet, you can go up to a certain height. So again, depending on where the triggering property is, triggering property being the property zoned or used as single family across from the project, there's a setback, and you can only go up so high within those setbacks.
Is there a code that I need to go to find out what is the height limit? I just want to know the fit and like how many feet high. Is it 20 feet high? Is it 25, 30 feet high?
So in the 2-story zone, well, I guess Grace starts on the phone. Nick or Larson, can you give more clarification on what you're proposing these units to be here closest to Scenic Brook?
Yeah. Hi, Annabelle. Nice to see you. Um,
Hey.
we don't actually know yet. We haven't fully designed it. We could try to get to the bottom of like what the typical roof pitch would be there. But so it's a 2-story home, and each floor will be 10.5 feet to the top of truss is how I think about that. And so it's the actual home is 21 feet, and then there's going to be a roof pitch that pops up above that. And I think the roof pitch on like a 3-to-1 roof would add about 8 feet. So I think it's going to stay under 30. But let me have an architect confirm that for you, and I'll try to get you that answer this week. I've got your email address.
Okay, thank you.
So anybody else have any questions? Okay, let me go to the chat. Excuse me. Lee Ziegler, please explain if it is possible to adjust the floor to area ratio to accommodate the plan without changing it to no limitation from 0.2 to 1 within the restrictive covenant. Where is the lowest part of the property and what size detention and retention pond is projected? So I guess there's 2 questions there related to the floor to area ratio. And for people who don't know what that is, that's if you have a 10,000 square foot property and you have a 0.5 floor to area ratio, you can build a 5,000 square foot building, basically is what that means. It's a measure of how you control the size of things. But I would defer to your engineer. I think he's on the call in the meeting, Jules, to talk
We do
about
not. Sorry,
No?
we do not have. No, we have the developer and we have the property owner. We don't have our engineer.
Oh, okay. I thought
But
okay, never mind.
It's okay. But I can explain. So the area zoned LR, the proposed LR zone area. Let me go back to my zoning map. The max FAR allowed there is 0.5 to 1. In the LO zone, the max FAR is 0.7 to 1, and then the MF5 zone is 1 to 1 under the zoning. And yes, we are asking to remove the 0.25 and 0.20 FAR limitation from the existing restrictive covenants. And we have to remove that in order to allow for the project. But we will be subject to the limitations as I described under the zoning categories. So it's not unlimited FAR, it would still be subject each one.
Any other questions? Either raise your hand or in the chat.
I think there was a
Cynthia
drainage
W.
question. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Mark,
the size of the detention pond.
Oh yeah, that I don't know, Nick or Larson, if y'all can speak to that.
Yeah, we're currently finalizing that design still. We are working to kind of reduce the height of the walls there to make it as least visible to kind of outside as possible. And that is going to be back in that buffer area that Jules had shown on the map. So it's going to be surrounded by a decent amount of trees, and we're going to push to put as much kind of new plantings around it as possible as well. But still finalizing the design, but can follow up with the final area.
Okay, and the other question to follow up, what will be the total impervious cover on the site?
Ooh, I think we're keeping it right under, well, so again, we're keeping this right under 65% on the 8-acre portion of the property. And then we're only allowed up to 25% on the majority of the site. Back here.
Okay. And I guess there's kind of an addendum there. What would be the impervious cover be relative to the total area of all the properties together? I mean, I
So
guess
if you
she was
took
asking
the
for this.
total area, yeah, and then, and
Yep.
you factored in the 25% plus the 60%, what would that be as a percentage of the total area?
Let me do some quick math for you. Oh,
Yeah, sorry, I don't have that number handy.
You said the site is something like 36 acres,
It's 35 and a half.
35 and a half.
Mm. And 8, and I think it's like 8.5 acres. Oh yeah, it's right here in front of me. 8.6 of those acres is subject, or we're asking to be subject to the 65% impervious cover.
all right, so roughly 34% is what I'm coming up with on quick math, just based on 65% on 8.6 acres and 25% on roughly, say, 30 acres.
Okay, so, okay. Any other questions? This is your opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and or us city's planning department staff. There's Cynthia has his typing, I can see in the chat. Yeah, 34% totally impervious cover. Thank you. Well, there's someone else's typing. I can see the 3 little dots bouncing around, so. So Maureen, while we're waiting for some more questions, okay, this is Lee Ziegler. What is the status of the site plan 2022-0579C and where is it located? I don't know, was that a previous site plan for this location?
No, that's our current site plan number. That's what I was just double checking. That
Okay.
was, and it was recently submitted. So it's in the very, very early stages of review. We haven't even got a set of comments yet back. And it has to be reviewed by the city and the county since we're in the limited purpose jurisdiction. And so it's, again, it's in the early stages of being reviewed and it's for the entire property.
Well, somebody else, okay, it has been approved for environmental and engineering. Has it? Hasn't it?
Is that, sorry, I need clarification on that question. Is the
site
question
plan
about, the site plan?
Has it
It
been approved? Have the environmental and engineering approvals on it yet?
No, again, it's in the early stages, so we wouldn't have any approvals at this point. We're still waiting for the first set of comments from staff review,
Okay.
city staff review.
So anybody have any questions? I mean, again, I'm not trying to beat you over the head with this, but this is your opportunity to ask questions. Well, saying it's listed as completed, but I guess that's on the ABC build.
Oh, it might be showing as the application submittal is complete, but it should still be shown as review.
Okay.
I would check my computer, but I've got my presentation mode up.
Okay. I think I remember, see, anybody else have questions of the consultant, of the applicant and their staff?
That's one thing I can add while if we're waiting on last comments
Yeah,
or questions.
great.
I think it would be good to give everybody a heads up that you might see this come on the Planning Commission agenda May 9th for the restrictive covenant amendment and the zoning, but just know that it'll be postponed since this application isn't ready for a public hearing yet. The first step in the process is taking the restrictive covenant amendment to the Environmental Commission, and we're targeting June 7th, but that's not been solidified with staff yet either. So at this time, we don't have any projected public hearing dates, but I didn't want you to all to be surprised if you do see something pop up on the May 9th Planning Commission agenda. It's just procedurally the way code is we're required to be put on an agenda within a certain time frame from submitting the application. And since we submitted last November, they just got to get us on that agenda for postponement, and then you'll get another notification at time when we are ready for public hearing.
Thank you for that clarification. Maureen, would you put up your the contact information for you and the zoning case manager and talk about the next steps in the process? And Maureen, you are muted. And I can't
Sorry,
unmute you.
sorry.
Maureen. Okay.
I know. So I got it.
Okay.
Sorry. So the plan amendment case was on the March 28th Planning Commission agenda, and it was indefinitely postponed. So that means it will need a new notification when it comes back to Planning Commission. So in the event we get notice from Jewel that the cases are ready, the plan amendment case is ready to move forward and to sync up with the zoning case and the restrictive covenant, then that notice will be sent out. So we haven't made a staff recommendation at this time. I will report back to my plan amendment team this discussion tonight, and eventually we will make a recommendation on the plan amendment request, going from neighborhood mixed use and single family to mixed use. Then I will pass that recommendation on to the zoning team, and they'll make a recommendation on the proposed zoning request. When we start looking at prospective planning commission dates, I'll reach out to the planning contact team, give them a heads up, and start working with them on their letter of recommendation. Obviously, anybody who lives in the 500-foot notification boundary, or anyone in general who wants to email me or Nancy any recommendations or comments that you would like to be added into the staff case reports, you can send them to me and Nancy, and we'll include them when we get to that point of submitting case reports.
Okay. Someone, Cynthia, would
Maureen?
you? Yes.
Yes, I have a question, Maureen. So notification is going to go out again on the land use change case. So is there a chance that any of the details may change? Because as you know, the contact team was planning on meeting tonight. But there's no point in, having a discussion and making a recommendation if, we're going to have to do that again.
That would be a question for Jewel. Do you expect any changes, Jewel?
No, we don't expect any changes to the neighborhood plan amendment or the restrictive covenant amendment or the zoning.
So, but we won't be making a recommendation then, Maureen. You'll let us know when it's time so that we don't make a recommendation too early, just in case.
I see no problem in y'all meeting tonight and making a recommendation. It doesn't sound as if it's going to be any changes, and if Joel said there's probably not going to be any changes, then I would just move forward with meeting tonight.
Okay, but then if you don't mind just giving us a heads up when we should send the recommendation in, because we might just hold it until it's time, just in case, because we've just learned in the past 3 years anything can happen.
Yeah, so when we get put closer to the point where the cases are ready for planning commission and I'll be sending out a new PC notice, I will give the planning contact team a heads up on that date.
Thank you.
Well, if nobody else has any questions, we can end. Oh, someone is waiting in the lobby. Person that I just let in with the phone number ending in 9524, we'll kind of run out of questions here. Do you have any comments or questions before we wrap up the
No.
meeting tonight?
No.
Okay, well, just to let you know that this meeting is being recorded. And since you got late, you can view it tomorrow and it's going to be posted. Can you show that website, Maureen? So so he can get us if he wants to see the meeting and see what was discussed.
Yeah,
Should be-
so let's see.
Are you still there?
Yes.
Yeah, so the website is, if you can remember this, or you can, if you got the notice in the mail, it has my email, you can email me, but it's called publicinput.com/neighborhood plan amendment cases. So,
And-
and that's the same link where you, that was on the notice, and I'll post the recorded meeting tomorrow.
And could you put that in the chat? There's been a request for that.
It was neighborhood what?
Oh, it's publicinput.com
Got that?
/ it's all one word, it's all smushed together. Neighborhood plan amendment cases.
Amendment cases. Got it. Okay.
And if you received a notice for this meeting in the mail, it'll have that address on there as well.
Yeah, I didn't get the. I thought I was going to get an email today, how to
Okay.
come in, but it didn't. So I
Okay.
just followed the information links.
Well, the meeting will be posted and have a
Okay.
recording of what we discussed here tonight, as well as staff's presentation and the applicants.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I was hoping to be able to see some slides or something of what the discussion was about. Is that going to be on this?
Yes, sir. It will.
Oh.
All that will be on here. This whole meeting from the beginning to when we end, it'll be available to view at that website.
Okay, is the meeting still going on? It was.
Well, we
posted at
were
6 to
wrapping
7.
up because nobody else seemed to have any questions.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
All right. Thank you.
yeah, and Maureen has put the link in the chat, so it's there for anybody who wants to go there. So
Okay, I'll pull it up tomorrow then when you. after
yeah,
it's
it
listed.
just what afternoon, Maureen, would be safe?
Yeah, I usually try to do it at the latest late morning, but I usually try to do it first thing in the morning.
All right,
So
good.
Jules, any closing comments before we end the meeting tonight?
I don't. I was wondering if I should give my contact info though, in case anybody wants to contact me directly. Should I put that in the chat box?
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay.
Okay,
So, okay, Jules has put her email and phone. So if you have questions or comments or you have that in contact information. We'll leave it up for a little bit longer so people can copy it down.
okay.
And again, this will be in the recording. But I also would like to thank everybody who came, gave a little bit of their time this evening to find out about this case. And if you, like Maureen stated, if you have questions about the plan amendment or the zoning case, the contact information for the two case managers is up on the screen right now. And with that, I would like to say, wish everyone a good evening and, thank you for coming, turning your computers on and phones on and coming out tonight.
Yeah, thank you for everybody's time.
Okay.